The following program is intended to educate and inform. We discuss cannabis being used as medicine, the culture, science, and controversy of cannabis and cannabis laws. We do not advocate any illegal activity. Moth Networks and their associates do not claim to be lawyers or doctors, nor do they represent themselves as such. All their comments and views are of their own personal opinion and personal experiences. Opinions and claims made by the guests and advertisers on Moth Networks are their own, and all parties agree to the Moth Network use and policy agreement. Moth Network and Moth Network associates cannot be held legally responsible for the statements of the host or of their guests. We encourage all listeners to learn their Constitution, to assert their rights, acknowledge their duties, and know their individual state laws.
Live on iHeartRadio, powered by 710 Radio. This is The Kingdom of Healing with Kimberly Mateo. So grab you a pen and a paper, kick your feet up, and get ready for some serious knowledge to be dropped on you. Because Kimberly Mateo is a nationally certified naturopath, master herbalist, iridologist, a nutritionist, and a holistic healer since 1977. She shares 35 plus years of knowledge and experience to listeners who are interested in learning and overcoming health challenges naturally. So without further delay, here is the host of your show, Kimberly Mateo.
Hi, thank you, and welcome back to Kingdom of Healing. This is Kimberly Mateo. This week I want to talk about our skin, which is, in natural healing is always considered the third kidney. And then I'd like to get into the urinary system and explain that. With coming into spring and sunshine going on, I think it's really important to go through the skin and ways to, one of the best ways to keep the skin, the surface of the skin, very healthy, with me saying that our skin is the third kidney. If you use a dry skin brush, which is, a brush that has natural bristles on it, and you dry skin brush before you take a shower, it's amazing how soft your skin will be. It sloughs off all the dead cells because that outer layer of our skin is pretty much dead cells. And when years ago, my main mentor, Dr. Jensen, said that, he really wanted to know what that skin was, what the dead skin, what nutrients were in that dead skin, what was in all of that? What was the body excreting? What was laying as dead cells on the surface of the skin? So what he did was, he took out, had some big, the brown paper that you just get on the rolls. Well, you can still get them on the rolls. And, he put that out on the floor, and then he skin brushed on it and sent a sample in to be tested. And it was mainly made up of uric acid. And uric acid is secreted from the kidneys. So what we don't eliminate through the kidneys and the bladder, we eliminate through our skin.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so, our skin is our largest organ. It's number one, largest organ. If you were to take our skin and lay that all out flat. I've been talking about that with some of the systems. It's like it's hard to imagine that there's just so much tissue, that makes up our body, and kind of like the intestinal tract in a football field. So our skin, if we were to lay that out flat, it would measure between 12 and 20 square feet.
Square feet.
Square feet. Yeah,
Very interested in there.
amazingly made. That's for sure. Our skin makes up about 12% of our body weight, and then it's composed of 3 layers. There's the epidermis, the dermis, and the subcutis. The epidermis is the outer layer, which is also that's the thinnest layer. But just under the outer layer, we pick up the dermis, and just how thin that is depends on where what the health is of the body. If you've got enough nutrition, and younger skin is thicker, and a lot of times we see with our seniors that very thin paper skin where it's easy for them to tear the skin, bruises. This is a lack of collagen in the body, and what makes up collagen, which is the stickiness that holds everything together, is the bioflavonoids from vitamin C. So the vitamin C with bioflavonoids helps with the body to produce collagen. And that good collagen layer is a good way to also, through that, transport, with all the blood vessels and stuff, under the skin, a way to feed the skin. What helps to keep the elasticity in our skin is magnesium. So, if got a lot of problems with, as you get older, the skin doesn't seem as resilient as it used to be. Magnesium, vitamin C, and bioflavonoids are 3 really important nutrients. And we don't get vitamin C, from the sun.
Right.
Vitamin C is one of those nutrients that we do have to get that from our diet or from supplements. But like, for instance, small amount of exposure to the sun is really good, because then our body is able to manufacture D3. It'll make G3. And then what it doesn't use, it stores in the liver. And, if you have an excess of it, it'll store in the liver, because it's a fat-soluble vitamin. But our body will make that when we have exposure to sun. It's also, D3 really helps against depression. So we think about the seasonal depression, what they call SAD, where during the winter time, years ago it used to be called, cabin fever. They got cabin fever.
Yeah, I know.
They need to get out, but it's not nice enough. It's really depression, and it's depression because of a lack of sunlight. It's not. Okay. Look at how you feel during the spring, summer.
Right.
Early fall. We have a lot more hours of sun, and it's certainly more intense than it is during the winter months. So, and you tend to stay inside. You don't really, you're not out there for a half hour, in the sun. And so with, coming into spring and summer, really important with sunscreen. Between the ozone layer and the breakdown of that, the UV rays are much more intense. So, another example is on the feet, the epidermis is really thick, while it's very thin on our eyelids. The epidermis is the location of the nerve endings, which allow us to respond when somebody touches us, or if we're hurt or we cut ourselves, it hurts because that's where the nerve endings lie. So it makes your skin very sensitive. And the thing like with fibromyalgia, when people talk about how their skin hurts with fibromyalgia, just to touch the skin is extremely painful. That's the overactivity of those nerve endings. So, I've talked before on the past shows with dealing with fibromyalgia. Magnesium, again, it's the relaxant. It's food for the nervous system. And when you have a lack of magnesium, you have a lack of calcium. They work hand in hand. If you're deficient in one, you are deficient in the other. So there's no way that you can have not enough calcium, but your magnesium level is high. Those two minerals, it doesn't work that way.
Okay.
Yeah. So, magnesium, B complex, that's another. The B vitamins are for the nervous system. So those are helpful with people that have fibromyalgia, with, barely touching the skin, guarding your skin, not wanting people to hug you, to touch you, because of the pain. Yeah.
I know a lot of people with fibromyalgia, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So it's very painful. And it's, again, overactivity of the nervous system. So you look at the nervine herbs as well, which is like hops and valerian root. And I've talked about valerian root before. I mean, it's an amazing herb for the nervous system. It's extremely high in magnesium, so it's a relaxant, because magnesium is the relaxing mineral. And, really good to take. It's very safe. You don't have to worry about if you need to take 5 of them 2, 3, 4 times a day because your life is stressful and maybe you've been dealing with a lot of pain, for a long time, that you need a higher dose until, that gets saturated in the system. Because what's nice about herbs is they're food. So those nutrients that are found in the herbs, feed and rebuild the system, rebuild the cells. And, I'll get into more in other shows about, there's specific nutrients that feed specific areas of the body.
Right.
And, I mean, it's just like, for instance, we'll be getting into the cardiovascular system next week. And, the thing is when you look at herbs historically that have been used to feed specific organs or systems of the body, with the technology that we have today, with the testing and being able to, really find out what the nutrient properties are of those particular herbs, we find that the herbs that have historically been used for certain areas of the body have the nutrients present in them that are the nutrients that feed that particular organ or system that have been used for thousands of years.
Okay, can I just make one little point here? Because I can't remember which show it was, but we had talked about these herbs, and I've really been paying attention lately, especially when I have been seeing herbs in the raw form. Mm-hmm. And it is amazing to me, because you were right about, they'll look like what they're, that system that they're supposed to be helping.
Yes.
And I was like, wow. It just clicked in my head. I was like, oh, she was right, man. Because, and now I can kind of I'm starting to look at something, and I'm like, oh, that would be good for the, whatever system I'm, and I'm like, oh, okay. I'm starting to grasp it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And it is seeing stuff like that helps you in the learning process. Very much so. And learning that's a forever thing.
Oh yeah,
it's just a forever thing. And I thought I knew a lot, 30 years ago, and it's like now I look back 30 years ago and think, wow, it was like I did know a lot, but now 30 years later, it's incredible what the old filing system has stored in it.
Right.
So yeah, thank goodness for Gotu-Kola and Ginkgo biloba. That's for sure, and coconut oil. But okay, so the middle layer, the dermis, is where the injured tissue is repaired. It's also the location of the skin's blood vessels and the sweat glands. Both the blood vessels and the sweat glands, what they do is they contribute greatly to temperature control of the body. So, you hear about, unfortunately, people who have been in a situation where they've been burned. And a lot of times, if it's a real high percentage of their body, there just really is no way that, they don't end up making it. And the reason is because of the skin being the largest factor of monitoring and controlling the internal body temperature. So if there's a lot of skin that has been severely damaged, over the majority of your body, you cannot maintain that internal body temperature of 98.6. They end up in a hypothermia situation where the body is just too cold. And so that's where it's, luckily now, as, there's a time and a place for medicine. And that's certainly a time for medicine. But one of the things is the concentrated aloe vera juice, which is like 1 ounce of it is equal to 10 ounces of just a regular strength aloe vera juice. And it's clear, it's not green. There's no colors in it. And, in situations like that, putting that strong aloe vera concentrate into a spray bottle and then just spraying and misting over the body and actually spraying it onto the wrap, the gauze where they wrap everything up. And it's a great way to start healing the skin just
Very
by doing
interesting.
that. And that's the...
so now can't you also eat aloe vera?
Oh, absolutely.
Is it
absolutely.
Sweet?
We have... aloe vera is... I think there's kind of a... It's kind of has that kind of bitter, sour to it.
Okay.
There's
this Mexican store out there that sells frozen aloe vera chunks.
Uh-huh.
And people go in and buy them like, snacks.
Yeah. Yeah. Those would be something good to just take and throw into, smoothies if you're doing that. But you be careful with, you don't want to do too much internally, or it has really intense laxative effect.
That's kind of what I thought it would do.
Big time laxative effect if you consume too much aloe vera. So
interesting.
Another.
I just thought it was interesting because it looked like popsicles for a moment, and I was like, "What kind of popsicle is that?" And he goes, "No, that's aloe vera." I'm like,
yeah, that's
okay.
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing with aloe is from a medicinal standpoint, you want that plant to be 4 years old or older. It has some higher nutritional properties in it than a young aloe vera plant.
Okay.
So if you're going to break off, some of the aloe vera plant and slice it open, that mucilagenic meat inside of that, you just take that out and pulverize it, or press down even just with a fork and, make a mash out of it. You can put that on a sore and then wrap it with gauze and put it directly on it, to help with healing. So if you've got a really bad sore, like, ulcers, where on the skin, usually a lot of times, people with diabetes will get the ulcers on their feet and their legs and the lower legs. And it has a lot to do as well with circulation, because that circulation is usually impeded. So one of the things that works really well is the silver gel. By putting the silver gel in that, naturally you're going to clean the wound and then pat it dry and put the silver gel on it, and then do like an aloe vera mash on top of that. The silver gel, what it's going to do is it's going to kill, because the skin is exposed. And our skin is our first protection against invasion of viruses and bacteria. So when that skin is broken, that's where our risk of infection comes in. So the first thing that you're going to want to use on an open sore is the silver gel. And there's now a specific silver gel that is for severe wounds. So it's like a antibiotic dressing that you can put on it. And so when that skin is broken, that's the highest risk of bacteria infection and invasion into the body. So you want to keep that covered. So you want to take care of, like I said, the silver first, to make sure that viruses and bacteria have been killed. And then you put the whole leaf aloe vera like a mash on it. And or just take the gauze, a thicker gauze, and put the aloe vera concentrate on that, and then put that down on it, and then wrap it with gauze. Otherwise, if you have an aloe vera plant that's 4 years old or older, you can just take a cutting from that plant. So, like I said, scoop out the mucilagenic, meaty part of it, mash it with a fork, and put that, pack over the area with that, and then cover it and wrap it. So, and it's amazing how quickly that ends up, that heals. Cold weather, the blood flow slows down, and the hairs on the skin, end up stand up more during the winter months than lying flat during the warmer months. And because since the blood's moving slower, it is something that innately, that's just that autonomic nervous system that just automatically does what it's supposed to do. And there's a change in the actual hair follicles. And that is, again, another way to protect the skin. So, it helps with adding extra insulation, which, I don't know, when it's cold, it's gold.
Right.
It's cold. And it can be cold here. It was so beautiful yesterday, but last night it was cool.
Yes, I actually ended up pulling the blanket over.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm noticing too, since kind of where I live is like right on the border of, a lot of people have land, and there's already, where people had gardens last year, it's been so nice that there's already, things popping up through the dirt.
Right, I got the same thing.
It's great.
Onions, carrots, and lettuce popped up.
Cool. Very good.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Well, and that's also the benefit of, planting organically. That any of those seeds and things left over from last year that were on the ground,
right,
they'll grow again the next year.
Now they're still going to get rototilled back in.
They are.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they will.
So that's
but they'll still come back up because
Well, that's a live amazing. Compost. There's a lot of nutrients in that. You're churning that back up. It's
I hate using chemical, and I won't even. Even my bug spray is all organic, you know. I mean, I figure since I'm feeding my family with it, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, it's just like and there's those out there that think that concept, the way that we think, is weird, because they've got everything.
I think they're weird for not thinking that.
yeah. So there's so much that is, that's another thing. Making sure that you're eating organically. And, I was reading something, a post on a blog, and, this lady was really skeptical and felt as though that people that were growing organically, maybe they were using chemicals, but she just doesn't trust anybody anymore. Then I guess she needs to take a different view of her backyard and turn her backyard into a garden and grow her own. But the thing is that people who have the organic endorsement, they pay a lot of money to get that organic labeling on their produce and their food.
I thought I had seen a article where they're trying to get that reversed. Actually.
Well, it doesn't cost anything to hose down everything with a bunch of poisons.
Right.
But you've got to pay extra fees and stuff if you want an organic certification. You have to prove that it's organic. Which is backwards, which is totally backwards. I mean, they should be paying a lot of money to spread the kind of poison on everything that they do, because there really should be some kind of a fund with a lot of money sitting there, so that when another place to file some claims, for illnesses, it's but that thing is unfortunately our legislators and our big pharma, corporate America, they're just all so together with everything. That would just never fly.
Right. Wow.
Not at all. Let's see here. In hot weather, sweat is secreted from the sweat glands, and then this moisture evaporates on the surface of the skin, and that draws the heat out of our body. The subcutaneous or subcutaneous layer is the bottom layer of the skin, and that tissue is made mostly of lipids, which is fats, and that provides the cushioning for the bones and organs and muscle groups. Protects you against falls and bumps and blows, and so it also acts as insulation for the body. So the skin is also where those really bad sunburns that you get when you're a kid and you're out swimming and you just don't want to come in during the high peak of the sun and you get fried. It's, when you get that all healed up, and that again is where, don't go out swimming in the summertime without some whole leaf concentrated aloe vera, in a spray bottle to spray you down. But, you can pick up zinc oxide at a drugstore, and that's a good way to increase the UV protection. So if you've got a nice lotion that you like, you can add some of the zinc oxide into that and help to bump up the sun protection, the sunscreen on it.
Okay.
I've got a friend that just makes amazing skin products, and I've given her website address before. And if you're looking for an all-natural product that when you read the label on it, you know what every single thing is.
Right.
And, if the kids got a hold of it and, ate some of it, you don't have to worry about calling Poison Control Center. And like I said, you read the labels and every single thing on it, you know exactly what it is. And her website is doublelcountrystore.com. And she has a huge herd of goats. I was up there with my granddaughter over spring break last weekend, and a week before last. And she has so many goats. There's just goats everywhere, and it's lots of little babies being born, and so it's pretty cool. It's always fun to go up there, and she just she's really concerned about everything that goes on the skin. She makes goat milk soap, and everything has goat milk in it, and her goats are naturally raised, and so she really has a wonderful product line, and she's really, really reasonably priced. I mean, it's kind of crazy how wonderfully priced everything is. And it has such quality nutrients in it. So you might want to look up doublelcountrystore.com and take a look at Laura's line. She has... she's got a lot of really cool things, and the soaps are wonderful. The skin products are amazing, and this is the time of the year with so much skin exposure, is to make sure that the skin is hydrated and protected. And
especially here in Colorado, since we're so much closer to the sun than
we are. We are closer.
We are number one state for melanoma cases. So,
Well, see, and that's where the skin is damaged during those times when we're young, and we get these really intense sunburns. That layer, the DNA is damaged, and we don't really see the results of that until 20, 30, 40 years later.
Wow.
And that's the skin cancers.
Oh,
and
okay.
And the discoloration on the skin. It has to do with that pigment layer.
Interesting.
So that's damaged. And, gosh, I think of when I was growing up in the 60s, I had a couple of cousins and friends that they'd spray themselves down with olive oil. No, not olive oil. It was just regular oil, or they would take Vaseline, and they would put Vaseline, they put iodine into Vaseline, and then just smear that all over their body. Or they would just use a regular oil and put iodine in it. And man, they would burn. It would go to a really dark tan. But what a terrible thing to do to your skin. Plus your Vaseline definitely is a coal tar product. It's made from petroleum. So that's a coal tar toxin, and don't put Vaseline on your skin.
No, please don't. I mean,
it's
because I don't know if I'm talking to the people out in Radio Land. I don't know if you've ever seen somebody that's had skin cancer. It's not a pretty sight, and it does I used to be a CNA, okay?
Uh-huh.
And I had worked at this, what was it?
Like a burn center or cancer oncology? Cancer?
Yeah, and this lady, I had to help her from the bed to the chair, but usually she would be able to, do most of the movement, Now, this was when I was younger, okay, and I had a grip on her like I was supposed to have, but her legs just gave out on her, and she fell. Oh, my God. And because of her skin cancer and being so delicate and, soft that it just tore her up, man, I quit. They asked me not to. She asked me not to. I couldn't help it. I had to quit.
Yeah.
I never went back to CNA after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I felt so bad.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I sat there and I cried and apologized to her for, that's how bad I felt.
Yeah. This is, the time and make sure that, the children are protected when they're outside. The skin, those pigments, that's the melanocytes and that carry the pigment and absorb the harmful ultraviolet rays, turning them, it's ultraviolet radiation, and that's the conversion. It's the melanocytes that in the pigment layer, in the pigment that carry the pigment, it converts the ultraviolet radiation into infrared rays, and this also accounts for a difference in people's skin colors. So there's more melanocytes with people that have darker skin than people that are real light skinned, and really light skin. That's where the best thing you can do is that's where the big old hats come in and keeping the face protected.
Is there, because like they say that redheads will get burned more.
Oh yeah, they tend to be very fair skinned. You don't usually see it's rare to see a redhead with dark complexion. That's not hair color. Okay. Natural redheads, yes, tend to have very fair skin. So,
and then I read an article, I'm sorry, but scientists were trying to cure that. Redheads.
Trying to cure redheads?
They said the red hair was like a disease or something. It was just funny as shit. I was like, wait a minute, are you serious?
They tend to be a higher iron element. People with red hair.
Maybe that's
and we think
that's
of
what they were
and we
talking
think
about.
of
I don't know,
iron.
but, I didn't
red.
know how they would. I just found it humorous that they would even say that.
That's pretty ridiculous. That's very ridiculous.
Because I called my redhead friend right away and showed him the article, and I was like, "Look, Jordan, there's hope for you."
There's hope for you. Keratin is a protein, and that is also needed for healthy skin and hair. And the dermis houses, with the sweat glands, they help the body with thermoregulation. Again, keeping that temperature of the body in balance. It opens and allows the sweat to cool the body. So when they're open, sweat, you release sweat, that cools the body. And then when they close, it conserves heat. So the remedies that will help sweat glands can be very valuable in fighting colds and fevers. And so, catnip is very good. Yarrow is one of the best herbs that you can use if there's a problem with the sweat glands. The skin responds really well to, coconut oil, jojoba oil, the aloe vera gel, silver gel. If there's burn or infection, that's what you'd want to use. Vitamin D, flaxseed oil. Baking soda is very good, especially like with rashes. And the reason that it works so well is it balances the pH of the skin. So, by adding a cup of baking soda into some bath water at about half the depth, if you're going to get a fairly good size, some of these soaker tubs, some of these tubs nowadays, you may have to throw 2 or 3 cups in. But it's very inexpensive, so it's really not, such a big thing. But it will balance the pH of the skin, and that's why it gives such relief in situations where there's a rash, where there's inflammation. And then, of course, one of the best things, and you can find so much information on anything out there. The curcumin, especially, is probably one of the best things for inflammation, and that's even inflammation of the skin. So, the dry skin brushing, again, that is really, it's amazing how good your skin feels when you use the dry skin brushing. And
is that just basically exfoliating?
Oh, it exfoliates the skin really, really well. You don't want to use like the brushes that have the nylon bristles on them, because they can put little cuts on the skin. They can actually cut the surface layer of the skin. That's why you want to use the dry skin brush. And great place to pick them up are the dollar stores. They carry them and they're $1.
Oh, okay. That's
when I bought them, years ago, I was paying like $8.95. The years prior to, they don't hold up as long, but hey, for $1, you'll get a good 6-8 months use out of it. But don't get it wet. You don't need to get it wet. It's something that you use on your skin before you take a shower or a bath. And you start at your feet, you work your way up through the feet, from your feet up to your hips. Then do your right arm. Then try to do your back, the front abdominal area, and then the last area of the body that you brush is the left arm, and you're brushing everything towards the heart.
Oh, okay.
When you're skin brushing, so it really stimulates the circulation because there's you've got that blood vessels and everything right below the surface of the skin, and it just gets opens it up, gets the blood moving. The more that's moving and stimulated, the more nutrients that it releases, so that you have healthy skin. There's no eczema, there's no psoriasis, boils, things like that, acne, scarring, even scar tissue. After a certain amount of time, when you're continually brushing an area where, say, you had a pretty bad scar, over a period of time, that replaces with new healthy skin, and the scar lightens and almost in some cases looks like it just diminishes away over a period of time with the skin brushing. So always use a natural bristle brush for that. Don't use those plastic ones. So the hair, responds to a lot of the same nutrients, cysteine and vitamin E, vitamin D. Those things are all needed for the skin. It's also needed for the hair. And the skin cells absorb the sun rays and produce the vitamin D. The excessive exposure to the sun is where we get into problems with the skin cancers. Our hair also forms a protective coating, and it's been called the body's garbage can, since it seems to collect the waste byproduct, such as toxic metals. Ever gone out to the car races, especially the mud track, dirt track, by the end of the night, after that track gets real dry and they send the trucks out to spray the water, and then they're out trying to pack the track, and it's all muddy and icky, and you're up by the fence line, and they're flying around, and you got all that exhaust going all over you, which is horrible. Yeah, but your hair, you immediately start smelling it in your hair, and then if it's pretty muddy and you're standing, in one of the curves, you're usually, you're hit with dirt clods. And you get home and you wash your hair, and it's amazing what is in your hair.
Sounds like good times.
Just for going out and having some fun, So, it's a protection agent. So it collects the waste byproducts. And hair in the nose and the ears trap foreign particles. So I've talked about before, that especially with nose hairs, do not pluck them. Go from the center bridge of the nose to each end of your mouth and make a triangle up above the top of your lip, and don't pluck any of those hairs in there, because that's a direct line of, when they bleed, any contaminant that's on the surface of the skin can make its way through that tiny little duct there, and you run high risk out of an infection that can go directly to the brain. So
that doesn't sound like fun.
Yeah. So there's over 100,000 strands of hair on an average person's head, and the main makeup of hair is keratin, and at the hair root. So the root of the hair is the only living part of the hair. So when your hair is kept in good condition, it's the secretions from the pseudocutaneous glands that keep the hair shiny and flexible and healthy. So keratin is a protein. So we're seeing a lot on the commercials, like it's some new discovery, order this shampoo and conditioner, and I don't know how much it costs, but it's probably outrageous. But it's keratin. I mean, we've known about it forever. Just kind of, things just kind of recycle back around, but keratin is a protein, and that's what's needed for really healthy skin, healthy hair and skin.
Okay. Yeah, because I was just gonna on those commercials that you were talking about, I think one just clicked in my mind. I think they're kind of doing a melon, but then when you talk about it...
Oh, okay. Well, there's just so much on TV, so... Yeah, best thing to do is write it down and then get searching it out, because just because they had the money for the commercial doesn't really mean they have really a great product. So, try to look up an ingredient list.
Yeah, I do.
You got a couple of good things thrown in there, and then, really, if you can't pronounce it,
right?
Just like looking at the boxes, don't buy boxed food anyway. But okay, so if you do, make sure that what you're reading on the ingredient list, just like in the food items, the skincare items, your shampoos. If you don't have a clue as to what they are, and they're beyond a major tongue twister to try to pronounce it, it's probably a really good thing that you don't put it on your hair or your skin,
right,
or ingest it, okay?
True.
Because, it's going to try to come out through the skin when you ingest it, so that's what ends up happening. So it's the third kidney. It is, a way to eliminate those toxins out of the body is through the skin. I mean, that's kind of what, acne is like. It's toxins, it's dehydration, where you're not hydrated enough for the skin to be able to eliminate, so that when it finally does release those toxins, it swells up underneath, you get inflammation, the dermis gets plugged, and so skin brushing is a good way to eliminate problems like that. Free the debris off of the surface of your skin. And like I said, it's when Dr. Jensen had it tested, it came out the highest properties, the highest properties with that was the uric acid. And that is specifically from the kidneys. So, in the United States, we have approximately 7 million people that suffer from skin conditions. Psoriasis is 2 out of every 100 people. So that kind of equates to 7 million people. Dermatitis and acne are 2 more skin disorders. Vitamin D3, and I talked about that. It's D3 that our body makes when we have enough sunlight, and it's really good if people are, if they're sick or sickly, that they have a certain amount of, a good 10-15 minutes out in the sun, maybe early morning and late afternoon, a couple times a day is really good for their immune system. The excess amounts of vitamin D, like I said, that's stored in the liver and fatty tissue, lungs, the spleen, the brain. And contrary to popular belief, the enhancing of vitamin D protection under a sun lamp, or these new high-end sophisticated tanning beds, this is not a way for you. There's nothing like the real thing.
Right.
There's just, man keeps trying to improve upon everything, and there's just nothing like, the sun to do what it needs to do. So, these tanning beds and sun lights and sun lamps and stuff, they're not going to trigger your body to make D3. And the other thing is overexposure to it, creates toxic conditions with the damaging of the pigment of the skin. And unfortunately, sooner or later, you'll deal with the consequences of that. Dr. Jensen used to always talk about it takes approximately 20 years to build a good disease. That's what he used to say. 20 years to build a good disease. You need to take a look at lifestyle and what they're doing. And give them 20 years. They'll be symptomatic. And maybe, it may take 5 years of complaining about it. So you're at 25 years. Instead of at 25 years, 30 years, oh, hey, you finally get a diagnosis. Because, when things things aren't diagnosed until they are in an active degenerative state. That's when they get diagnosed. So, or you have an acute condition, like a cold or the flu or something like that, or you have severe pain. But, a lot of times these degenerative conditions, they don't surface, for years, because the body does so well at literally taking from one area of the body to put into another area. Kind of like the old saying, robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Right.
Yeah, is what's going on. And,
at that, huh?
and when you finally have a breakdown of all of that, it's like that's usually when you end up with your diagnoses of problems. So
that's when you've robbed Peter one too many times.
That's right. That's right. And so, but I've seen, in so many years, over 3 decades in natural healing, it's incredible what I have witnessed that people have the ability to overcome. And that's where juicing comes in. It's such a concentration of nutrition that, and with it completely broken down in a liquid and everything broken down, it's so easy for the digestive tract to absorb that and get that off into the bloodstream and to be delivered to every cell in the body. Because usually the way the average American eats, they're running on empty every day because of the food choices that they make.
Right.
And the more that you cook a food, the more a food is processed. And then certainly if the foods have artificial flavorings and artificial colors, those chemicals wreak havoc at a cellular level. And so, when you make sure that you clean your diet up, you start paying attention. And people pay attention when they're sick. If they're serious, they pay attention to everything.
Right.
There's still those out there that think that, nutrition really isn't part of it. That, they've had a doctor tell them that nutrition doesn't really matter. Eat what you want, take these medications. But unfortunately, the medications do not heal anything. And, it's just a way to manipulate or suppress conditions that are going on in the body. So, you want to make sure that your nutrition is kicked up, and, not only with just taking supplements, but you can get by with taking less supplements if you will pay more attention to what it is that you're eating, and eating it as natural as possible. And, hey, if you can throw some stuff into a really good, powerful blender, once a day, and dish it all out to, the family and everybody, bottoms up, drink all their juice. There's a lot of nutrition in that. We've got, good skin care, taking care of the hair, skin, and nails. It includes drinking plenty of water. And, that's another thing is water. We were always told, drink, 8 glasses of water a day. Well, if you weigh 100 pounds, you don't want to try to drink 8 ounces of water, 8 times a day. The thing is the best way to determine how much water you need, and herb teas would be included in that, or if you drink something awesome like chlorophyll water, that counts as your water. Things that don't count as your water is juice.
Okay,
so, or if people drink sodas or whatever, it's like, don't do that, but there's those out there that they are. And so what you need to do is to just take your weight, divide that in half, and then convert the half into ounces, and that's what you need a day. So someone who weighs 100 pounds needs 50 ounces a day. Okay, so 8 glasses of 8 ounces of water a day is going to be waterlogged to someone of that size. So, if you weigh 200 pounds, divide that in half. You need 100 ounces a day just in water, okay? Water or herb teas. And, that's to help to flush, flush the toxins out of the system. Because as far as the urinary system goes, what processes through the kidneys and the bladder in a day is only about 2 pints to be excreted. The rest is excreted through the skin and through respiration, breathing. Okay, so the urinary system, our internal water treatment plant, it passes the water within our body through a filtration system. It's a filtration process in order to maintain a clean supply of body fluids that the different systems can all utilize. This system is also responsible for maintaining the sodium-potassium balance of the minerals that are in and around our cells. So one of the best herbs for sodium-potassium balance in the body is dandelion. And when you look at a lot of urinary formulas, they all have dandelion in them. And the reason for that is dandelion's ability to balance that sodium-potassium within the cell of the body. And that is what, the importance of the sodium-potassium balance of these minerals in the cells. It helps us to maintain, a high, healthy energy level. The kidneys and the bladder, the ureters and the urethra is what makes up the urinary system. The kidneys, we've got 2 kidneys. They're bean-shaped, just like kidney beans. Kidney beans are good for the kidneys. Kind of goes back to what you were, saying about, you take a look at the herbs, and that's how they knew, thousands of years ago, how to use those. Hey, this kind of looks like a body part here, so let's give it a try. So, we have 2 kidneys. They each weigh about 5 ounces, and the kidneys together contain approximately 2.4 million nephrons or filters stretched out end to end. These filters would be about 50 miles long.
Whoa. Wow.
So.
Dang.
Yeah. Amazing. These energy drinks are real popular. And, years ago, when they first came out, wrong pipe. About, years ago when they first came out, I read the back of one of them, and I just thought, this is awful. This is not going to last. These things are, wow. Talk about damaging, especially if, you get into a point where, look at the people that drink 6 packs of pop a day, or 12 packs.
Right. Right.
or beer for that matter. All of that going into the system. But,
like those little 5-hour energy shots, which are something like
like 350.
240 some odd milligrams of caffeine in them.
Yeah, very, very acid producing in the body, and the kidneys help to regulate that pH balance in the body. And, I've talked a lot about pH because if you are in an acidic terrain, your foundation of the tissue in your body, if it is bathed in acidic fluids because of an acidic diet, which, an acid diet is high meat, high sugar, grains. Those are all acid forming. And if your diet is high in that, and then you're drinking tap water, we've talked about that before too. It's like, oh man, what was it that Thornton had said? There was 400 and some chemicals they needed to manipulate the water to get it to your tap, and then there was still 100 and some pathogens.
Yeah, 187 some odd.
187 pathogens that are still in your water. Well, those are low levels, But
right, they say are safe
they're
levels.
Safe, that are safe. They're really not safe if your kidneys have been compromised. They're not safe if your body's in an acidic condition. Because it's that acid environment that anything microbial that makes its way into your system, if you have the environment, if you have the foundation, the terrain that will culture and grow this, that's what an acid environment will do. So, I've talked about water. The most important thing with the urinary system is hydration. And, I've talked about the alkaline water machine. We're getting into summer, and I really strongly encourage people to spend a little bit of money and get a BPA-free bottle and start purifying your own water. This situation going on with the water supplies, we are greatly diminishing the resources of water from the aquifers. We have all of these big, huge corporation water companies and the fracking.
And then Nestle,
all the water, and
wants to make you think that water is a privilege, or something like that.
It's getting to be where it is a privilege. I mean, they're saying California is really going to be in trouble next year in 2016. There is a really cool, very cool solar, kind of like a small little cistern that has a solar panel on it that warms up that water, and it was invented by an Italian man, and it's a way to take ocean water, salt water, and you put that in this like clay cistern, and in about 10 hours you have purified water, drinking water.
Interesting.
Made from the ocean water. So, I don't know, they just really need to think on a much grander scale on that, because something is going to have to be figured out. But I know that there is water by a very well-known company that, the people in that small town in Colorado literally had a fit, and it really didn't matter. They all showed up to all the town hall meetings over it. They were completely, totally opposed to their pristine water being taken. And so this is where it's just so ludicrous about this is it's up in the mountains. The highway that they have to drive, because they're tankers, they can't stay on the highway the whole way. They have to cut around and go across a pass in Colorado that is pretty dangerous. So, we've got the the trucking, the diesel emissions. We have the wear and tear on the roads. We have scary situation for the drivers. We're going into this small mountain town that they didn't want them there anyway, but as it all goes in politics and everything, don't think that those things going on with money are just, at a legislative and Senate level. It's going on with city council.
Oh, sure.
I mean, why does city council allow a lot of the things that they do? Well, hey, the revenue on it. And what they're going to have to pay that county to be in there. So, the sad thing is here they're taking all of this wonderful water from this mountain area, and they're trucking it all the way down into Denver. So you've got these tankers coming back. They're filled with water, going back over the pass, and they've got some pretty intense switchbacks, and bringing it down into southeast Denver area, and then they're running it through reverse osmosis filtration. Now, reverse osmosis filtration will clean up a muddy lake and turn it into clean water. Reverse osmosis will. So it just doesn't make any sense to me that all of this money is being spent and wages paid and diesel fuel purchased, and here's some more stuff for the air, and take this beautiful, pristine, clean water. But because it comes from the mountains, excuse me, they are able to call it mountain spring water. They couldn't call it mountain spring water if they just, took mud sludge and ran it through RO, or from water, from an aquifer in Colorado, on the plains. They couldn't call it mountain water. So this way, where they get it from, it is in the mountains. So they are legally, they are able to say that it is mountain water. And then they truck it down to Denver and run it through a water purification process. And then put them into thin plastic bottles that aren't BPA free, that are getting loaded onto trucks that who knows how long they end up sitting, to where those trailers or containers get really, really hot, or they get really, really cold. And then there's the chemicals from the plastic that leach into the water. So there's all this money being spent to start out with this awesome product. But by the time, man has his hands on it, we've robbed that up, and, that's not water for that community. And, put it through a process and load it onto some more trucks and put it into some bottles. And, yeah, people are drinking more water. But some of that water, by the time it's sat around, like in the containers, getting too hot or too cold, and the chemical release from the plastics into the water, there's a lot of toxins there in the water that weren't there originally when they started out with it. So there's a lot of things that are, it's all about the greenback. And unfortunately, what happens with all those containers? They're all thrown in the garbage, or hopefully they're going into a recycle container.
Right.
But because, we really don't need any more the plastic bottles. People need to just buy a container to put your water in. And the best water that you can do is the alkaline water. So again, if you're going to keep that terrain, the body hydrated, and enough fluids to keep the cells of the body floating around in a good pH balance, the best thing that you can do is use the alkaline water. And the unit that I use, I really love this unit, and I did a lot of research, and I've had my unit now over a year. And, there's different levels on it. You've got your initial water that you start out with, because the stuff coming out of your tap is 7.0 to 7.5. But, reverse osmosis water can be 5.5. The energy drinks, and I've talked about that before, they're 2.5.
Wow.
They are so acidic. They're 2.5. And when I've talked about pH before, 3.5. 3.5 is what your pH is when you die. So we think about, and I've talked about it before as well. All the people making it to the emergency room with horrific symptoms. And it's kidneys, it's heart, and it's those energy drinks. And, and I was really wrong on it. Hey, they sell all kinds of them. Millions of dollars. Hey, they've got they got a NASCAR.
Right.
That's one of the energy drinks, So there's a lot of money coming in. But I'm going to tell you something. Your kidneys in Chinese medicine is your qi. Your qi is your energy. Your qi comes from your kidneys. So it goes back to that potassium-sodium balance. It's the firing of that cell. It's getting the proper nutrient balance in that cell. So, these are things that at 2.5, you drink enough of those every day, day after day, and you're ending up with a lot of scary symptoms. You need to take a look at what you've been spending on those, and you really need to do yourself a favor. And for $8.95, you can get an alkaline water machine that compares with the one out there that's like $4,200.
Wow.
And the thing that is cool about this machine too is it has the initial level, and then it has the drinking water level once you, for about a week, drink the initial water. And the initial water is the one that, it cleans out the... I have 3 filters that my water goes through before it goes through the alkaline water machine. And the reason for that is where I live, the water, the municipal water, is horrible. It is, you turn that faucet on and the smell of the chlorine and the ammonia, and just the things like the inside rack of the dishwasher that has that water, the municipal water going through it. It's terrible. The top rack where you pull that out, or even the bottom rack where it has, where you put your glasses and your plates and stuff. A lot of those they're just breaking off.
Right.
They just fall over. They just break off. The house is 10 years old. That's it. And this dishwasher is losing, the little prongs that come up where you can stand up the glasses and the dishes, and that's what that water is doing to it.
Wow.
So that's why we make sure that everything that we're drinking is clean. I don't want to be drinking stuff that does that to metal. I mean, imagine what it would do to your body.
Right.
And there's still a lot of people that, it's rare to run into them, but once in a while you do, where it's like, no, I just drink that tap water. I can't tell the difference between, tap water tastes just as good as some of that purified water.
Well,
and it's
somebody.
like, huh?
You know somebody that, she's usually upstairs.
Oh, no, you can't just drink the tap water.
I tell her that.
No.
No, there's no difference. You can't tell the difference. Bull. Fuck you. Yes, you
can. Yeah, so, I would encourage you to give Greg a call, 775-432-2861. And if you tell him that you heard about this from Kim Mateo or Dr. Kim on Kingdom of Healing, he'll give you a $25 additional discount and bring that down to $870 for you. But it's a wonderful machine. You can adjust the alkaline levels so that any hot beverages, anything that you're cooking, you want to use the high level on the alkaline. And every once in a while I'll do a half a container of the drinking water level, and then which is about 8.5. I'll do about half of the gallon with that, and then go one more notch to the 9.5 and fill with a half gallon of that. So that getting a little higher pH. You don't want to do that all the time, because you can get into trouble too if your pH is too alkaline. But for the most part, it's like I said before, you walk outside and you get hit in the face with 83,000 different toxins that are just in the air, you're acid again. So there you go. So that's not going to, and it's true. That's what happens. There's things that we've got to take control of. We have to. Things that we can't control, we need to control. So, and that's one of them, is what you put on your skin, what you're drinking to hydrate, what you're putting in your body to feed the whole system. It is just, it's crucial, very crucial. So, back to specifically to the kidneys here. The kidneys regulate the amount of water, the acids and salts in the body, and it ensures that the body doesn't end up poisoning itself. And that's where if you're not drinking enough water, the body's going to conserve that water, and you're not going to have much urine output. But what's going to happen is there's going to be an awful lot of breakdown of, heavy metals, other toxins that were filtered from the liver into the kidneys, expecting it to be eliminated through the bladder. But you don't drink enough water. Okay, so when the brain knows that you're not drinking enough fluids, it's got to conserve. Because, it's been proven you can go longer without food than you can without water. So, Autointoxication takes place when you're not hydrated enough, when your foods are, concentrated, and you have don't have enough bulk in your diet. You get that autointoxication through the bowel, reabsorption of poisons because the bowel is not eliminating properly. It's the same along the line with the kidneys. If you're not drinking enough water to flush everything through, you're going to hold on to those toxins and metabolic waste. So the water, salt, minerals, glucose, urea, and urea is waste from the protein breakdown, and the creatinine waste from the muscle metabolism breakdown. That's all excreted from the kidneys into the bladder. So this filtration, it passes from these the nephrons, which that's what I had mentioned a little earlier, that those nephrons are the little filters, and there's 2.4 million. Excuse me, 2.4 million filters in the body. If you stretch it out end to end, about 50 miles long. So we run through about 300 pints of water are filtered through the kidneys each day. 300 pints. 300 pints of water filtered through the kidneys each day. But only about 2.5 pints are excreted in urine. 99% is reabsorbed.
Wow.
So when there's too much fluid in the body, the kidneys excrete more water. And when there's not enough, they conserve water. My throat just got really dry. Excuse me. So, regulation of water excretion also helps to regulate our blood pressure. Since our blood is 50% water. 96% of the urine is water. A transport medium to keep the 4% of dissolved solids in solution. Occasionally, dissolved salts may fall out of solution, and when that happens, they form those little calcium deposits in the kidneys. Okay, so there's a product called URY that's excellent for the kidneys and the bladder, especially, if you're dealing with, calcium deposits. The URY, there's a combination K or a kidney activator, and, you use that with hydrangea, and that helps to dissolve those down. Chlorophyll is another thing that's really good for that. Drinking chlorophyll water, which is alfalfa, that helps to put that pH again into balance.
Interesting.
And alfalfa again is called father of all. That is the herb that the roots grow deeper than any plant in the plant kingdom. It's alfalfa. So it pulls and it chelates. It pulls all those nutrients up from the soil, and it uses it as its food, and then it chelates it. It converts it into a biochemical, and then we eat the plant. We don't eat the dirt. The plant grows in the dirt. We eat the plant. So the minerals from the dirt is food for the plant. And so it chelates that. It takes that inorganic, converts it to an organic. And that's the chelation process that does that. And then when we consume it, it is a natural biochemical mineral and is able to be accepted into the cell and taken where it needs to go. The brain knows where it needs to send it.
Right.
We just need to make sure we get it, into the diet. So the occasionally, there are people who end up with these calcium deposits or kidney stones. One of the things too that pulls calcium out of solution is sugar.
Interesting.
It interrupts calcium being absorbed. So sugar does that. Sugar also paralyzes the immune system. So sugar is not good for anybody. Sugar's not good for anybody, but sugar's not good for people with
You're talking
diseases.
white sugar, right? Or
White,
just
white,
all...
white sugar.
Oh, okay.
People can overdo it on honey as well, and molasses, and those kind of things. Honey, molasses, sugar in the raw. Stevia is probably the best thing that you can do. Stevia, though, currently right now, what all is available is stevia that has, has an aftertaste to it. And one of the cool things that a friend of mine who's a scientist, and it's going to be, I'm not sure when it's going to be available, but he did find a way to, it's patented, and he found a way to remove that aftertaste. And I can't wait for that stuff to be available.
Right.
Because
that's pretty cool, actually.
Stevia does have, it has a real specific taste to it, and it really doesn't matter. I think the only thing that I've found to seem to mask that taste is if cinnamon is present.
Interesting.
At least for my taste buds, anyway.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah. So, potassium and sodium, that's crucial to the fluid balance in the body. Over half of the water in the body is inside the cells. The rest is mixed with salts. With salt, kind of like diluted seawater. It bathes the cells. To maintain healthy cells, the proper concentration of salts is needed. For example, blood cells that are placed in tap water, they will swell and burst, since water is rushing into the cells by osmosis. When it's placed in a 5% salt solution, the cells will shrink and wrinkle up because the salt is pulling the fluid out through the cell wall. So it makes you really stop and think about if your diet is too high in salt. The kidneys are the major regulating mechanism for maintaining that sodium-potassium balance. And every cell in the body needs to be, is balanced with sodium and potassium. So, they're designed to excrete extra potassium and save sodium, since there's plenty of potassium in foods. But sodium is not as plentiful, that when you're eating an organic diet. There's plenty of inorganic salt, like the table salt, that still, builds up in the body. It's not utilized the way that, say, the Himalayan salt is the best salt that you can use, and that has 85 different minerals and trace minerals in it. That's that the pink salt, the Himalayan salt. People are now eating more sodium foods. Mainly, you find a lot of that sodium in processed foods where they add the sodium chloride. Sodium chloride accumulates in the body just like potassium chloride. like a prescription potassium, you have to be very, very careful with potassium chloride. Potassium chloride in high amounts will disintegrate your red platelets. So that's why people who are given a prescription of potassium, chloride, you've got to be very careful because it's deadly. I mean, you take what they say you should and do not exceed that. But there's so many other ways to get potassium in your diet. Bananas are a good source. Kiwi's a good source. There's food sources that will give us celery. The end leaves on the celery is potassium.
Okay.
The stalk is sodium. So if you're not using salt and you're cooking, say you're making soup, use a little extra celery and use the whole stalk. Use the bottom long portion, which is the sodium, and then those leaves, they're kind of bitter. And chop them real fine and put those in that as well. That's your potassium. Okay, so it's kind of a perfect balance of the sodium and potassium, and that is found in celery.
Interesting.
Okay, so fresh foods are high in natural potassium. Even with the diet of natural foods, the kidneys still have sodium and excrete potassium. The function of the kidneys will not change, but we can change our diet. Since food processing lowers the potassium content of foods, it's so important to eat fresh foods. And preferably, you need to be eating organically. The URY that I had mentioned, that's a particular product that's actually an herb and vitamin-based product. The B complex is found in that, as well as magnesium and potassium, vitamin D, vitamin C. But, this particular product keeps the sodium-potassium in balance. And it also balances the body's blood glucose levels. The urinary system is important in the elimination of, toxins in the body. So the formula URY contains uva ursi, hydrangea, parsley, dandelion. Those are just some of the herbs that are in there. There's schizandra, the dong quai, watermelon seed. Horsetail is high in silicon. And even there's corn silk in this product, and that's another herb that is high in natural occurring silicon. Corn silk and oat straw, those are very good for the skin, for the kidneys, also for the hair. The combination potassium, now that each capsule is equivalent to 44 milligrams of potassium, each capsule. And it's an herb blend. And so the herbs that are in that are not only high in, iodine and a lot of other nutrients, but it's extremely high source of potassium. And, it's combined of kelp and dulse, watercress, wild cabbage, horseradish, the horsetail. And so there's 42 to 44 milligrams each capsule of potassium. So that's a really good combination to use instead of, I'd rather take 20 of those than a couple, 800 or 1,000 milligrams of a potassium chloride. which, can be deadly. I would much rather do it in the food source. So add a couple bananas to that, and yeah, you're good to go. A combination that is really, really good for, say, kidney and bladder infections. If you have reoccurring bladder infections, there's a cranberry buku product that works excellent on, getting onto the wall of the bladder and kind of changing that environment so that bacteria doesn't replicate itself on the inside of the bladder wall. So, cranberry juice is very good for, bladder and kidney infections.
That's usually the first thing that they'll tell you to take is cranberry juice.
Yeah, and you really got to watch that because, there's some cranberry juices that, there's high fructose corn syrup in it. Okay. There's a lot of GMO. That's genetically modified, and
that's defeating the purpose of what you're trying to.
Well, exactly. So something where you have actually dehydrated and broken down cranberries that that have been tested that they are cranberries. There's nothing toxic on them. There's no sugar added to it. I preferably would rather do the cranberry buku and maybe back it up with, the JPX formula where that has golden seal in it. And golden seal is wonderful for bacteria and bacterial infections. And, oregano is really good as well. Olive leaf is very good as well. The silver kills off bacteria, viruses. But golden seal is it's really out there as far as an excellent antibiotic. So from an antibiotic standpoint, echinacea is extremely wonderful from a viral standpoint. So when you see a golden seal echinacea combination, that's for, bacterial or viral. Okay. So that's we've got that in we've got it in a liquid for children. We have it in a concentrated form. We've got a regular strength, and it's excellent for any type of infections in the anywhere in the body, but also if you're dealing with a bladder infection or a kidney infection. And hey, your kidneys bother you, you usually feel like you're being stabbed in the back.
Oh yeah.
It's hot. It's a hot knife. They got you with a hot knife. That is a good signal that something's going on with the kidneys. There's also in the JPX there is parsley, and now there's juniper berries, and juniper berries come from the evergreen bush and evergreen tree, and those juniper berries are amazing for cleansing and strengthening the kidneys.
Interesting.
Juniper berries. Ginger, and that's thrown in there for, circulation. That, ginger works very, very well with circulation below the waist. Cayenne pepper is that catalyst herb that is good for circulation above the waist. And then there's marshmallow in it, and marshmallow is mucilagenic. It's soothing. So if there's an irritation there, say you finally broke down that calcium deposit, that kidney stone, it was sharp and in there, and irritating and making you miserable, and then in your urine you'd have some blood because there's some bleeding that was going on from that kidney stone irritating and cutting the delicate fibers inside of the kidneys. Marshmallow is very soothing. It's mucilagenic. It's like a Jello glove. Send it in there to soothe and reduce the inflammation and to help facilitate the healing from that area that was so irritated. There's a couple different kidney formulas. We've got the Chinese kidney activator. Excellent if you're dealing with, some kidney discomfort, or you have a lot of exhaustion. That chi, that energy, your overall energy comes from your kidneys. So that kidney activator, the Chinese formula, is an excellent product. There's also the Western formula, the kidney activator, that is Western philosophy of herbalism. And that one has juniper berries, parsley, uva ursi, dandelion, and chamomile in that. So that's a reparative, that's a building formula, and there's some of the herbs are similar to the JPX, but with the JPX, you have the golden seal in it, and the marshmallow, and the ginger. So that is specific to infection and inflammation.
Oh, okay.
So, go ahead.
No, I was just wondering if they're similar. Okay, but I understood once you said that would be more for the infection then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In hydrangea, it is bitter, and it's a solvent. It has solvent properties. So what do we use solvents for? Well, we use solvents to break things down. So kidney stones, gallbladder stones, hydrangea, it's the bitter solvent that you need to dissolve that stone. Break it down so that your body can pass it. The dried powdered root of hydrangea, it also strengthens the urinary system as well. Corn silk, you peel back, you're peeling the corn and all that fiber that lies on the actual corn. That's corn silk. And Oriental and Western herbalism alike have used it nutritionally to assist the urinary system, for, eons, really. The parts used by herbalists is that soft, fine yellow threads. Corn silk is odorless, and it has a little bit of a Swedish taste to it. Corn silk is also used to support and proper maintenance of fluid levels in the body. It's also one of the gentlest herbs of its kind. It's also very good for hair as well, strengthening. It's one of those hair, skin, urinary tract friendly herbs. Oat straw tea. My son Danny, I used to make him oat straw tea, and then I would add a little bit of chlorophyll into it, and that and goat milk was the primary thing for fluids that he had in his early years. And I mean, chlorophyll, I had chlorophyll in purified water when he was probably about a week old.
Wow.
Giving him a couple ounces of it. He was never one of those colicky babies or tummy fussy stuff. And that chlorophyll, it balances the pH. And I've talked about this before, where he never had a growing pain. And
right.
He's 6'8", and oat straw tea is something that he had a lot of it when he was growing up, and I always had a gallon of oat straw tea, made up in the refrigerator. And
6'8", boy, I bet you did. I bet you he
his hair.
I'm just thinking of how much food he ate.
You
To
know,
fill that big toe, you know?
yeah,
I mean,
you know, the one thing that he really loved that you know, was amazing was goat milk. He loved goat milk, and there's so
Wow.
much nutrition in goat milk, and it was raw. You know, it was raw, unpasteurized, so it was full of really good nutrition. Nothing had been destroyed, and he would, you know, I bought quite a bit of it a week. I have, especially when we were down in Missouri, because I have a friend. She's now down in Arkansas, and I've mentioned Sylvia before, and she had a pretty good size herd of goats in Missouri, and all my goat milk came from her, and made a lot of kefir with it as well, and the you know, the grandkids and even Danny, you know, loved it. So they were having smoothies, you know, years ago, and but the other thing that was amazing is Danny's hair. When he was 3, well, when he was 2, he was 3 feet 4 inches tall.
wow.
At 2,
Wow.
3 feet 4.
You knew then he was going to be a big boy.
Yeah. And they say, you know, if you double their height at 2, you'll get approximately how tall they're going to be. Yeah, he was 3 feet 4 inches tall on his 2nd birthday when he was measured, and he is 6'8". So at 3, you can imagine, you know, I think when he was 3, I think he was wearing like size 5s. At 3, size 5, because of his height. And so his hair, from all of that oat straw tea, his hair just grew like crazy. And he didn't get his first haircut until he was about 3.5. But at 3, his hair touched the back top, you know, waistband
Wow.
of his pants.
Wow.
And it was just beautiful. It was thick and it was shiny, and it was like, I do not want to cut that hair
rock star
off.
hair that early, huh?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, and, you know, it's like I don't want to cut all that beautiful, gorgeous hair off into a little boy
Right?
haircut. I mean, you're kind of coming in with the scissors. I had to like trim it, you know, bangs and kind of around his face when he was asleep.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think it was just that thing, you know, thinking that, you know, his hair was like his fingers, you know, stay away from me with those scissors. And sometimes little kids do think that, you know, that their hair is, you know, if you got a child that just like really freaks out. when
Wasn't
comes
it
time to-
Hercules that had the long hair and you cut the hair off and then he lost his power?
Samson.
Samson, I'm sorry, yeah.
Samson.
I mean,
Delilah cut his hair off.
yeah,
Mhm.
see, I mean, that's every man's fear.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. It's like, what's mom's dad's hair like? You know. So, you know, so the kidneys are extremely important to keep hydrated. You know, asparagus, and especially the if you steam asparagus or you just saute it in just a little bit of, you know, high alkaline water. Asparagus is a high alkaline vegetable, and it's excellent for the kidneys. It's you know, it's excellent for any tumors or anything in the body as well. It's also something that is used for, you know, cancer and natural healing is asparagus, and a lot of healing properties to it. But one good way to flush the kidneys out, pull those toxins out of the kidneys, is to drink that water that you saute or lightly steam, lightly cook in the water. Drink that, and it's excellent for purging and cleansing the kidneys.
Interesting. I'm
Very,
going to do
very
that
good.
the next time I do that.
You know, one of the things with extremely dark colored urine and a strong odor, burning, scalding, feeling, painful urination, frequent urge to urinate, urinary tract infections seem to be a problem all the time. Corn silk is one of those things that is excellent for that. The URY, it's a urinary maintenance combination, is very good for that. That signifies a hot, overactive condition with the kidneys. Cold, underactive is when you can't really, you have very little urine output with, combination of a little bit of urine output with fluid retention. If you have chronic edema where you can put the end of your finger onto their skin and push on it, and it just keeps an indentation, and it's a while before it surfaces back up. That's dehydration, and that's where the fluids that you are taking in, if you're not taking in enough fluids, the body will hold that back. And so that's where you get the swelling. You need more water to flush all of that out. See what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. So, getting in your adequate amount of water is really, really important. Cold, stiff, heavy feeling in the back. Some of the emotional things with that is a lot of fear and a lot of worry can affect the functioning of the kidneys. Darkness, a lot of dark, a really dark area. If you're looking at the eyes from an iridology standpoint, you can tell if there's kidney problems going on, whether they're something that you're doing from a dietary standpoint, or if it's something where you inherited a kidney problem. Okay, so the iris is a good way to tell that. The cranberry buku is a really good combination for a situation of scant urine and a lot of fluid retention and your back hurting. The cranberry buku or the kidney activator, the combination K. The other thing is excess moisture. When you have water retention, and again, it's just not very much urine output, or the urine is really, really clear. The skin stays white more than 2 seconds when you press down on the skin, and puffiness under the eyes. So if you have a lot of puffiness under the eyes, people will say, dark circles under the eyes. Yes, that's kidneys. Puffiness under the eyes can be a excessive damp condition with the kidneys. The urine can be scant and clear. It also kind of denotes an acid condition with the saliva and the urine. So, that's kind of indicative of a kidney infections. That's where the golden seal can come in. The other thing that works very well with this condition of urinary stagnation would be the Chinese kidney activator. Is excellent specifically for that excessive damp. The dry, deficient dry with the kidneys, that's low back pain, frequent back pain, hips don't seem to stay in alignment, you're always needing to see the chiropractor, weak knees, weak ankles, tendency to arthritis, incontinence, not able to hold your urine, impotence, formation of stones and calcifications. Maybe your urine is too alkaline and the saliva is acidic. That condition, that's dry. So that dry condition is where you need horsetail high in silicon, good mineral nutrient to strengthen the kidneys. KBC, the KBC formula, that's a urinary atrophy. That's when your kidneys are in trouble. Okay, atrophy means, things are dying, not doing good. Okay, magnesium complex, drinking lots of lemon water. You may have to kick it up to where you've got a couple of lemons juiced in your water.
Wow.
Okay, squeezed really, really well. And we got how many more minutes we got here? Okay, I'm going to finish here with. There's two more conditions that denote the tone of the kidneys, and that's a spastic condition that's tense, or the relaxed condition. So in intense spastic conditions, we tend to have those sharp stabbing feelings in the kidneys. We can have spastic pains in the kidneys or the bladder when you're urinating. Edema that really kind of comes and goes. It's not something that stays with you like if you have a condition that's like excessive damp or the underactive cold condition. But the urine is really, really dark. And sometimes with dark urine, too, that can also be a sign that maybe there's some blood in the urine, and that's what turns that to that very dark brown. So if you have dark urine, there's just not a whole lot of it. And you have a problem with kidney stones. That is a tense condition with the kidneys. And there's a product called Cramp Relief that's very good for that. The magnesium complex, and kava kava works very well for bringing that into balance and relaxing so that you don't have that spasming that goes on. A lot of times people with MS have conditions where bladder spasms, they'll get a kidney spasm, they get muscle spasms. So that's where that magnesium is so important. Because again, remember that magnesium is the relaxant. And then the last symptom that you can have with the urinary tract is that atonic or relaxed condition. And that's where you're urinating constantly all the time. The urine is pale. You have a problem with holding your urine. There can be blood in the urine. Frequent urination, especially at night. And so weakness and soreness in the lower back. And the best things to take care of that, again, is the horsetail. And we've got that in single, in the single herb under the all of the single herbs. There's over 600 products, so it's good to know which one you're going in there to look for when you go in to order, at thekingdomofhealing.com. But the combination that's really, really good for bringing back that balance and tone into the kidneys is the KBC. So that is strengthening for the bone structure, as well as helps to regulate the calcium, but it also helps with strengthening and assisting. It's all about getting the proper things into the system so that you're giving it the tools and the nutrients that it needs to repair itself and get well. Because when you feed it specifically the nutrients that it needs, an amazing thing happens. The body heals itself. Yeah, so it's pretty amazing.
Right.
So you can find everything at kingdomofhealing.com. And thank you for listening. And next week, go through the skeletal and muscular system, bones and muscles, and circulatory. system.
Okay. Right
Okay. Alrighty. So
Thank you
you all
for,
have a great week. God bless, and be back next week. Take care.